Chapter 5: Selecting a Topic and a Purpose. As you read through this book, you will find examples of hundreds of speeches that were delivered in classrooms, in the political arena, in community and business situations. Here is a very small sample of the topics they cover: acupuncture, breast cancer, Cesar Chavez, Everglades, free trade, Great Wall, Habitat for Humanity, identity theft, Jerusalem, laser surgery, Martin Luther King, Native American casinos, obsessive compulsive disorder, phony pharmaceuticals, Quebec, Ramadan, school vouchers, Underground Railroad, women's gymnastics, X-rays, Yellowstone, and zoos. Undoubtedly, you notice that the list runs from A to Z. This array of topics wasn't planned. It happened naturally in the course of presenting many different kinds of speeches. The list is given here to show you that there are literally endless possibilities for speech topics from A to Z. Choosing a topic. The first step in speech making is choosing a topic. For speeches outside the classroom, this is seldom a problem. Usually, the speech topic is determined by the occasion, the audience, and the speaker's qualifications. When Bill Clinton lectures at a college campus, he often speaks about global citizenship. Christine Amanpour will discuss women and journalism. Stephen Colbert might share his views on current events. The same is true of ordinary citizens. The doctor is asked to inform high school athletes and their parents about sports injuries. The head of a neighborhood coalition speaks about zoning regulations. The florist discusses how to grow thriving houseplants. In a public speaking class, the situation is different. Students generally have great leeway in selecting topics. This would appear to be an advantage since it allows you to talk about matters of personal interest. Yet there may be no facet of speech preparation that causes more gnashing of teeth than selecting a topic. It is a constant source of amazement to teachers that students who regularly chat with their friends about almost any subject under the sun become mentally paralyzed when faced with the task of deciding what to talk about in their speech class. Fortunately, once you get over this initial paralysis, you should have little trouble choosing a good topic. There are two broad categories of potential topics for your classroom speeches. 1. Subjects you know a lot about, and 2. Subjects you want to know more about. Let's start with the first. Topics you know a lot about. Most people speak best about subjects with which they are most familiar. When thinking about a topic, draw on your own knowledge and experience. Everyone knows things or has done things that can be used in a speech. Think for a moment about unusual experiences you may have had or special expertise you may have acquired. One student who grew up in Turkey presented a fascinating speech about daily life in that country. Another used her knowledge as a jewelry store salesperson to prepare a speech on how to judge the value of cut diamonds. A third student who had lived through a tornado gave a gripping speech about that terrifying experience. Too dramatic? Nothing in your life is as interesting. Yet another student who described herself as just a housewife who is returning to school to finish the education she started 20 years ago delivered a witty speech on the adjustments she had to make in coming back to college, sitting in class with students young enough to be her children, balancing her academic work against her family commitments and the satisfaction of completing the education she had begun years earlier. Here are a few more examples of speech topics based largely on the student's personal knowledge and experience. Learning at a crime lab, the basics of backpacking, performing with the Native American dance troupe, how to have a successful job interview. Topics you want to know more about. On the other hand, you may decide to make your speech a learning experience for yourself as well as your audience. You may choose a subject about which you already have some knowledge or expertise, but not enough to prepare a speech without doing additional research. You may even select a topic that you want to explore for the first time. Say, for example, you've always been interested in Stonehenge, but never knew much about it. This would be a perfect opportunity to research a fascinating subject and turn it into a fascinating speech. Or suppose you run across a subject in one of your other classes that catches your fancy. Why not investigate it further for your speech class? One student used this approach to develop a speech on the subject of neuromarketing, which uses recent advancements in neuroscience to study the way people respond to products and promotions. After hearing about the subject in her marketing class, the student researched the topic further. In the process, she learned that neuromarketing is currently being used by some of the biggest corporations in the world. Using what she learned in her research, she put together a captivating speech that kept everyone's attention from beginning to end. Still, another possibility, especially for persuasive speeches, is to think of subjects about which you hold strong opinions and beliefs. They may include national or international concerns such as gun control or climate change, or perhaps you are closely involved in a local issue such as a school board election or proposal to build a new student center. Not all such topics must be political. They can deal with anything from graduation requirements to helping people with physical disabilities, from dormitory regulations to building a church recreation center. Brainstorming for topics. After all this, you may still be thinking, I don't care about neuromarketing. I've never been to Turkey. I'm not active in politics. What am I going to talk about? If you are having trouble selecting a topic, there are a number of brainstorming procedures you can follow to get started. Personal inventory. First, make a quick inventory of your experiences, interests, hobbies, skills, beliefs, and so forth. Jot down anything that comes to mind, no matter how silly or irrelevant it may seem. From this list may come a general subject area out of which you can fashion a specific topic. This method has worked for many students. Clustering. If the first method doesn't work, try a technique called clustering. Take a sheet of paper and divide it into 9 columns as follows: people, places, things, events, processes, concepts, natural phenomena, problems, and plans and policies. Then list in each column the first 4 or 5 items that come to mind. The result might look like this: people, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, Sarah Palin, Lady Gaga. Places, Afghanistan, Grand Canyon, the moon, my hometown. Things, iPad, Twitter, 3D TV, movies. Events, graduation, Passover, Chinese New Year, Cinco de Mayo. Processes, learning CPR, cooking Indian food, avoiding credit card debt, writing a job resume. Concepts, conservatism, medical ethics, free speech theories, Buddhism. Natural phenomena, asteroids, lightning, tornadoes, earthquakes. Problems, national debt, terrorism, election fraud, campus crime. Plans and policies, offshore drilling, charter schools, domestic partner benefits, immigration reform. Very likely, several items on your list will strike you as potential topics. If not, take the items you find most intriguing and compose sublists for each. Try to free associate. Write down a word or idea. What does that trigger in your mind? Whatever it is, write that down next, and keep going until you have 4 or 5 ideas on your list. For example, working from the list printed above, one student composed sublists for movies, campus crime, and lightning. Movies: Academy Awards, prizes, lotteries, gambling. Campus crime: police, fingerprints, hands, gloves. Lightning: thunder, noise, traffic, air pollution. Can you follow her trail of association? In the first column, movies made her think of the Academy Awards. The Academy Awards are prizes. Prizes reminded her of lotteries. Lotteries are a form of gambling. Suddenly, this student remembered an article she had read on the problem of gambling addiction in America. The idea clicked in her mind. After considerable research, she developed an excellent speech titled Gambling Addiction: Why You Can't Beat the Odds. That's a far cry from movies. If you started out free associating from movies, you would doubtless end up somewhere completely different. This is what clustering is all about. Internet search. By clustering, most people come up with a topic rather quickly, but if you are still stymied, try an internet search. Browse through a subject-based website, an online encyclopedia, or some other reference portal until you come across what might be a good topic. As an experiment, one student scanned the Merriam-Webster online dictionary, limiting herself to the letter M. Within 10 minutes, she had come up with these potential topics: magic, Madrid, monarchy, marriage, minimum wage, moon, meteorite, Marine Corps, Medal of Honor, martial arts, maple syrup, mushroom, middle ear, muscular dystrophy, Mardi Gras, mafia. Whatever the means you use for selecting a topic, start early. Pay attention to interesting subjects in conversation, on television and on the internet, in newspapers and magazines. Jot down ideas for topics as they occur to you. Having an inventory of possible topics to choose from is much better than having to rack your brain for one at the last minute. If you get an early start on choosing a topic, you will have plenty of time to pick just the right one and prepare a first-rate speech. Determining the general purpose. Along with choosing a topic, you need to determine the general purpose of your speech. Usually, it will fall into one of the 2 overlapping categories: to inform or to persuade. When your general purpose is to inform, you act as a teacher or lecturer. Your goal is to convey information clearly, accurately, and interestingly. If you describe how to lift weights, narrate the major events of the latest Middle East crisis, or report on your sorority's financial position, you are speaking to inform. Your aim is to enhance the knowledge and understanding of your listeners, to give them information they did not have before. When your general purpose is to persuade, you act as an advocate or partisan. You go beyond giving information to espousing a cause. You want to change or structure the attitudes or actions of your audience. If you try to convince your listeners that they should start a regular program of weightlifting, that the United States should modify its policy in the Middle East, or that your sorority should start a fundraising drive to balance its budget, then you are speaking to persuade. In doing so, you cannot help but give information, but your primary goal is to win over your listeners to your point of view, to get them to believe something or to do something as a result of your speech. In speech classes, the general purpose is usually specified as part of the speech assignment. For speeches outside the classroom, however, you have to make sure your general purpose yourself. Usually, this is easy to do. Are you going to explain, report, or demonstrate something? Then your general purpose is to inform. Are you going to sell, advocate, or defend something? Then your general purpose is to persuade. But no matter what the situation, you must be certain of exactly what you hope to achieve by speaking. Determining the specific purpose. Once you have chosen a topic and a general purpose, you must narrow your choices to determine the specific purpose of your speech. The specific purpose should focus on one aspect of a topic. You should be able to state your specific purpose in a single infinitive phrase. To inform my audience about, to persuade my audience to. That indicates precisely what you hope to accomplish with your speech. For example, Dwayne Winefield, a student at a large state university, decided to give his first classroom speech on a topic from his personal experience. For the past 2 years, he had volunteered his time to perform music for patients in mental hospitals, nursing homes, and residences for disabled adults. He had seen how enthusiastically the patients responded to music, even when they remained unmoved by the other kinds of stimuli. Dwayne's experience had given him a better understanding of the benefits of music therapy, and he wanted to share his understanding with his classmates. This gave him a topic and a general purpose, which he stated like this: Topic: music therapy. General purpose: to inform. So far, so good, but what aspect of his topic would Dwayne discuss? The kinds of facilities in which he had worked, his specific role as a performer, the evidence that music therapy can improve patients' mental health, the needs of patients with different kinds of illnesses. He had to choose something interesting that he could cover in a 6-minute speech. Finally, he settled on describing his most memorable experiences with patients to show how music therapy affected them. He stated his specific purpose this way: Specific purpose: to inform my audience about the benefits of music therapy for people with psychological or cognitive disabilities. This turned out to be an excellent choice, and Dwayne's speech was among the best in the class. Notice how clear the specific purpose statement is. Notice also how it relates to the topic directly. It relates the topic directly to the audience. That is, it states not only what the speaker wants to say, but also what the speaker wants the audience to know as a result of the speech. This is very important, for it helps keep the audience at the center of your attention as you prepare your speech. Look what happens when the specific purpose statement does not include the audience. Specific purpose: to explain the benefits of music therapy for people with psychological or cognitive disabilities. Explain to whom? To musicians, to medical students, to social workers? Those would be 3 different speeches. The musicians would want to know about the kinds of music Dwayne played. The medical students would want to hear about the research on the benefits of music therapy. The social workers would want to learn about how to implement a music program. Communicating effectively with each group would require preparing a different speech. When the audience slips out of the specific purpose, it may slip out of the speaker's consciousness. You may begin to think that your task is the general one of preparing an informative speech, when in fact your task is the specific one of informing a particular group of people. As we shall see in the next chapter, it is almost impossible to prepare a good speech without keeping constantly in mind the people for whom it is intended. Tips for formulating the specific purpose statement. Formulating a specific purpose is the most important early step in developing a successful speech. When writing your purpose statement, follow the general principles outlined in the following pages. Write the purpose statement as a full infinitive phrase, not as a fragment. Ineffective. 3D technology. More effective. To inform my audience about the three major kinds of current 3D technology. The ineffective statement is adequate as an announcement of the speech topic, but is not thought out fully enough to indicate the specific purpose. Express your purpose as a statement, not a question. Ineffective. What is Dia de los Muertos? More effective. To inform my audience about the history of Mexico's Dia de los Muertos celebration. The question might arouse the curiosity of an audience, but it is not effective as a specific purpose statement. It gives no indication about what direction the speech will take or what the speaker hopes to accomplish. Avoid figurative language in your purpose statement. Ineffective. To persuade my audience that the campus policy on student parking really stinks. More effective. To persuade my audience that the campus policy on student parking should be revised to provide more spaces for students before 5 p.m. Although the ineffective statement indicates something of the speaker's viewpoint, it does not state concisely what he or she hopes to achieve. Figurative language can reinforce ideas within a speech, but it is too ambiguous for a specific purpose statement. Limit your purpose statement to one distinct idea. Ineffective. To persuade my audience to become literacy tutors and to donate time to the Special Olympics. This purpose statement expresses two unrelated ideas, either of which could be the subject of a speech. The easiest remedy is to select one or the other as a focus for your presentation. More effective. To persuade my audience to become literacy tutors, or more effective, to persuade my audience to donate time to the Special Olympics. Does this mean that you can never use "and" in your specific purpose statement? Not at all. Suppose your specific purpose is to inform my audience about the causes and effects of epilepsy. In this case, "and" is appropriate because it connects two related parts of a unified topic. What you need to avoid is not simply the word "and," but a specific purpose statement that contains two unrelated ideas, either of which could be developed into a speech in its own right. Make sure your specific purpose is not too vague or general. Ineffective. To persuade my audience that something should be done about unsafe school buses. More effective. To persuade my audience that the federal government should impose stronger safety standards for school buses in the United States. The ineffective purpose statement falls into one of the most common traps. It's too broad and ill-defined. It gives no clues about what the speaker believes should be done about school buses. The more effective purpose statement is sharp and concise. It reveals clearly what the speaker plans to discuss. The more precise your specific purpose, the easier it will be to prepare your speech. Consider this topic and specific purpose. Topic: hot air balloons. Specific purpose: to inform my audience about hot air balloons. With such a hazy purpose, you have no systematic way of limiting your research or deciding what to include in the speech and what to exclude. The origins of hot air balloons, how they work, their current popularity, all could be equally relevant to a speech designed to inform my audience about hot air balloons. In contrast, look at this topic and specific purpose. Topic: hot air balloons. specific purpose to inform my audience about the scientific uses of hot air balloons. Now it is easy to decide what is germane and what is not. The origins of hot air balloons, how they work, and their popularity for recreation all are interesting, but none is essential to the specific purpose of explaining the scientific uses of hot air balloons. Thus, you need not worry about researching these matters or explaining them in your speech. You can spend your preparation time efficiently. Questions to ask about your specific purpose. Sometimes you will arrive at your specific purpose almost immediately after choosing your topic. At other times, you may do quite a bit of research before deciding on a specific purpose. Much will depend on how familiar you are with the topic, as well as on any special demands imposed by the assignment, the audience, or the occasion. But whenever you settle on your specific purpose, ask yourself the following questions about it. Does my purpose meet the assignment? Students occasionally stumble over this question. Be sure you understand your assignment and shape your specific purpose to meet it. If you have any questions, check with your instructor. Can I accomplish my purpose in the time allotted? Most classroom speeches are quite short, ranging from 4 to 10 minutes. That may seem like a lot of time, but you will quickly find what generations of students have discovered: time flies when you are giving a speech. Most people speak at an average rate of 120 to 150 words a minute. This means that a 6-minute speech will consist of roughly 720 to 900 words. That is not long enough to develop a highly complex topic. Here are some specific purpose statements that would defy being handled well in the time normally allotted for classroom speeches. To inform my audience about the rise and fall of ancient Rome. To inform my audience about the role of technology in human history. To persuade my audience to convert to Buddhism. You are much better off with a limited purpose that you have some reasonable hope of achieving in the short span of 4 to 10 minutes. Is a purpose relevant to my audience? The price of retirement homes in Palm Springs might be an engrossing topic for older citizens who are in the market for such dwellings. And the quality of hot lunches in the elementary schools is of great concern to the students who eat them and the parents who pay for them. But neither subject has much relevance for an audience of college students. No matter how well you construct your speeches, they are likely to fall flat unless you speak about matters of interest to your listeners. This is not to say you must select only topics that pertain directly to the college student's daily experience. Most students have a wide-ranging backgrounds, interests, ideas, and values, and most of them are intellectually curious. They can get involved in an astonishing variety of subjects. Follow your common sense and make sure that you are truly interested in the topic. Also, when speaking on a subject that is not obviously relevant to your listeners, find a way to tie it in with their goals, values, interests, and well-being. We'll discuss how to do this in the next chapter. Is a purpose too trivial from my audience? Just as you need to avoid speech topics that are too broad or complicated, so you need to steer clear of topics that are too superficial. How to build a fire without matches might absorb a group of Cub Scouts, but your classmates would probably consider it frivolous. Unfortunately, there is no absolute rule for determining what is trivial to an audience and what is not. Here are some examples of specific speech purposes that most people would find too trivial for classroom speeches. To inform my audience about the parts of a backpack. To inform my audience how to tie a bow tie. To persuade my audience that espresso is better than cappuccino. Is the purpose too technical for my audience? Nothing puts an audience to sleep faster than a dry and technical speech. Beware of topics that are inherently technical and of treating ordinary subjects in a technical fashion. Although you may be familiar with the principles and vocabulary of international finance or clinical psychology, most of your classmates are probably not. There are aspects of these and similar subjects that can be treated clearly with a minimum of jargon, but if you find that you can't fulfill your specific purpose without relying on technical words and concepts, you should reconsider your purpose. Here are some examples of specific purposes that are overly technical for most classroom speeches. To inform my audience about the solution of Fermat's last theorem. To inform my audience about the principles of neutrino physics. To inform my audience about methods of encryption technology. We'll discuss the details of audience analysis and adaptation in Chapter 6. For the moment, remember to make sure that your specific purpose is appropriate for your listeners. If you have doubts, ask your instructor or circulate a questionnaire among your classmates. See pages 111 through 113. Phrasing the central idea. What is the central idea? The specific purpose of a speech is what you hope to accomplish. The central idea is a concise statement of what you expect to say. Sometimes it is called the thesis statement, the subject sentence, or the major thought. Whatever the term, the central idea is usually expressed as a simple declarative sentence that refines and sharpens the specific purpose statement. Imagine that you run into a friend on your way to speech class. She says, "I have to dash my history lecture, but I hear you're giving a speech today. Can you tell me the gist of it all in one sentence?" "Sure," you reply. America's prison system suffers from 3 major problems: overcrowding of inmates, lack of effective rehabilitation programs, and high expense to taxpayers. Your answer is the central idea of your speech. It is more precise than your topic, America's prison system, or your specific purpose statement, to inform my audience of the 3 major problems facing America's prison system. By stating exactly what the 3 major problems are, the central idea sums up your speech in a single sentence. Another way to think of the central idea is as your residual message, what you want your audience to remember after they have forgotten everything else in your speech. Most of the time, the central idea will encapsulate the main points to be developed in the body of the speech. To show how this works, let's take a few of the examples we saw earlier in this chapter and develop them from the topic, general purpose, and specific purpose to the central idea. We can start with the speech about music therapy. Topic: Music therapy. General purpose: to inform. Specific purpose: to inform my audience about the benefits of music therapy for people with psychological or cognitive disabilities. Central idea: music therapy, developed as a formal mode of treatment during the 20th century, utilizes a number of methods and is explained by several theories that account for its success. Look carefully at this example. It shows how the speaker might start with a broad subject, music therapy, that becomes narrower and narrower as the speaker moves from the general purpose to the specific purpose to the central idea. Notice how much more the central idea suggests about the content points. First, summarizing the development of music therapy. The second, looking at methods of music therapy. And the third, exploring theories that account for the success of music therapy. This sharpening of focus as one proceeds to the central idea is crucial. Here is another example. Topic: Dia de los Muertos. General purpose: to inform. Specific purpose: to inform my audience about the history of Mexico's Dia de los Muertos celebration. Central idea: Dia de los Muertos can be traced to the Aztecs, was moved from summer to fall by Spanish priests, and today is celebrated in a number of ways in different regions of Mexico. This central idea is especially well worded. We can assume from it that the body of the speech will contain three main points. 1. On the Aztec origins of Dia de los Muertos, on how it was changed by the Spanish, and 3. On the ways it is celebrated today. Notice in each of these examples how much more the central idea reveals about the content of the speech than does the specific purpose. This is not accidental. Often, you can settle on a specific purpose statement early in preparing your speech. The central idea, however, usually emerges later, after you have done your research and have decided on the main points of the speech. This process may work like this. As an environmental science major, Marcia Esposito had learned that many experts fear the world may face a severe water shortage by the year 2025. She decided this would make a good topic for her informative speech. Tentatively, she adopted the following specific purpose statement: to inform my audience about the seriousness of growing international water crisis. Then Marcia started her research. An article in Time magazine, which she located through LexisNexis, explained how the population in countries such as China, India, and Pakistan is outstripping the available supply of fresh water. According to the article, 400 million Chinese do not have access to suitable drinking water, and two-thirds of India's 1.1 billion people lack the water they need. Next, Marcia found a report on the United Nations website about the impact of pollution on the water supply. The report stated that in developing countries, more than 90% of sewage and 70% of industrial wastewater is dumped untreated into surface water. Then Marcia hit upon the idea of interviewing one of her environmental science professors. In addition to confirming Marcia's research about the impact of population growth and pollution, the professor mentioned the problems caused by mismanagement of water supplies. Around the world, 65 to 70% of the water people use is lost to waste, evaporation, and other inefficiencies. Marcia digested all of this information. Now she was ready to formulate her central idea. Population growth, pollution, and mismanagement are creating a serious shortage of fresh water in many parts of the world. Guidelines for the central idea. What makes a well-worded central idea? Essentially the same things that make a well-worded specific purpose statement. The central idea, 1, should be expressed in a full sentence, 2, should not be in the form of a question, and 3, should avoid figurative language, and 4, should not be vague or overly general. Here, for example, are 4 poorly written central ideas. See if you can identify the problem with each and figure out how each might be phrased more effectively. Ineffective. Paying college athletes a monthly salary is a good idea. Ineffective. Problems of fad diets. Ineffective. What are nanorobots? Ineffective. Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula is an awesome place for a vacation. The first is too general. To say that paying college athletes a monthly salary is a good idea does not convey the speaker's viewpoint sharply and clearly. what does the speaker mean by a good idea? A revised central idea for this speech might be more effective. Because college athletes in revenue-producing sports, such as football and basketball, generate millions of dollars in revenue for their schools, the NCAA should allow such athletes to receive a $300 monthly salary as part of their scholarships. The second ineffective central idea is also too general, but it suffers further from not being written as a complete sentence. Problems of fad diets does not reveal enough about the content of the speech to serve as a central idea. It should be rewritten as a full sentence that identifies the problems of fad diets to be discussed in the speech. More effective. Although fad diets produce quick weight loss, they can lead to serious health problems by creating deficiencies in vitamins and minerals, and by breaking down the muscle tissue as well as fat. The third poorly written central idea is phrased as a question rather than as a full declarative sentence. Asking "What are nanorobots?" might be a good way to catch the attention of listeners, but it does not encapsulate the main points to be developed in the speech. A more effective central idea would be more effective. Microscopic in size, nanorobots are being developed for use in medicine, weaponry, and daily life. The final ineffective central idea is flawed by its use of figurative language. To say that the Yucatan Peninsula is awesome place for vacation does not indicate what characteristics of the Yucatan Peninsula the speaker intends to discuss. A better central idea might be more effective. Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula has many attractions for vacationers, including a warm climate, excellent food, and extensive Mayan ruins. Notice that in all these examples, the more effective central idea sums up the main points of the speech in a single sentence. If you are having trouble phrasing your central idea, the reason may be that you do not yet have a firm grasp on the main points of your speech. Do not worry too much about your central idea until after you have developed the body of your speech. See Chapter 9. If at that point you still can't come up with a clear, concise central idea, your speech itself may not be clear or concise. Keep working on the speech until you can compose a central idea that fits the criteria just as discussed. The result will be a sharper central idea and a tighter, more coherent speech. Summary. The first step in speech making is choosing a topic. For classroom speeches, you can choose a subject you know well or one you research, especially for the speech. If you have trouble picking a topic, you can use one of 3 brainstorming procedures. First, make an inventory of your hobbies, interests, skills, beliefs, and so forth. Second, use a clustering list to list the first topics that come to mind in several categories. Third, use an internet subject directory, encyclopedia, or similar reference site to help you scan possible topics. The general purpose of your speech will usually be to inform or persuade. When your general purpose is to inform, your goal is to communicate information clearly, accurately, and interestingly. When your general purpose is to persuade, your goal is to win listeners over to your point of view. Once you know your topic and general purpose, you must focus on a specific purpose statement that indicates precisely what your speech seeks to achieve. The specific purpose statement should 1. Be a full infinitive phrase, 2. Be worded as a statement, not a question, 3. Avoid figurative language, 4. Concentrate on one distinct idea, 5. Not be vague or general. Keep several questions in mind as you formulate your specific purpose statement. Does my purpose meet the assignment? Can I accomplish my purpose in the time allotted? Is the purpose relevant to my audience? Is the purpose too trivial or too technical for my audience. The central idea refines and sharpens your specific purpose. It is a concise statement of what you will say in your speech, and it usually crystallizes in your thinking after you have done your research and have decided on the main points of your speech. The central idea usually encapsulates the main points to be developed in the body of your speech.